Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We are live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Today I'm on. It's open chat with a good buddy of mine, a good brother by the name of Rob from Black Light Revelations 2. Many of you are familiar with him already if you've been subscribed to this channel for a minute now. But if you're new to the channel, right? If you're brand new to this channel, you don't know anything about me, what I do, what I'm about, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I said last time me and Rob went live, and that's don't watch this video. Okay. Yeah, this live chat is not a proper representation of how I typically give it up on YouTube. On the open chats like this, a lot more candid, relaxed, laid back, and just letting everything flow. All right. But what you can do is that you go to the main channel and watch that video right there. Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, and benign neglect, the art of ignoring black politics. Go watch that video. Okay. And then you come back to this for sure. Now, Rob, let people know who you are in case they don't know yet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Rob. I got two YouTube channels, Black Light Revelations 1 and Black Light Revelations 2. As far as my YouTube channels go, I talk about a diverse amount of topics, but the majority of the topics that I talk about is political things. Sometimes I go into tech, sometimes I talk about cryptocurrency, but for the most part, the majority is political things. And one of the goals that I have is to increase, independent black media information utilization, because in my opinion, that's real important. Because if you want to try to get your information from a source of media that's not agenda driven, you know what I mean? You want to get your information from a media that your improvement is the agenda of, and that's not what we have right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the goals that I want to try to bring with my channels.
That's what's up. Now I want to allow some people to come into the live stream. So what I want to do is that I want to play the latest news segment from my second YouTube channel, TD News Network. If you're not already subscribed to TD News Network, make sure you do that. You definitely won't be disappointed, because this is the type of news that people say that they want and that we need, and I'm delivering it over there. So we're going to get into this news segment right now. Then we're going to get into today's discussion. But let's watch this while we let some more people come into the live stream. Late last week, former presidential hopeful and current New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Yang was kicked out of Daunte Wright's tribute ride after protesters began to tell Yang that he was not wanted there due to many feeling that his presence was disingenuous and that he was simply there for photo ops. Protesters could be heard shouting, "You don't care about the community," as another protester could be heard saying, "Don't use our protest for your publicity."
Get out of here! Oh, shame on you, Andrew Yang! Shame!
During Yang's presidential run, he was vehemently against a comprehensive black agenda that would consist of legislation that would exclusively benefit black Americans, similar to Joe Biden's memorandum condemning and combating racism, xenophobia, and intolerance against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States. Yang also refused to make reparations for the descendants of American slavery a priority if he became president. Like most presidential candidates, he agreed with the idea of reparations, but would consistently refuse to make a commitment to it. They got him out the paint real quick.
Man, it was heated down there. It was heated. Oh, wait.
Oh, man. I was so happy to see that. I'm like, yes, get up out of here. They got him out real quick. Like, nah. You're not coming over here with that.
Yeah, it's just interesting. You know, you got to just ask the question, how would you be against legislation that specifically helps and uplifts Black people, but then you're at a protest that's specifically about a Black individual, who met an unfortunate end to the police. Like, what is your end goal from that if you're not actually about, uplifting that individual community? Because like there shouldn't be any issues about uplifting the individual community. You really don't see too many, which is interesting. You really don't see too many Black caucus, or you know what I mean? Because you already know the Black caucus is nonsense, but you don't see too many of those people in government going out and making an effort to specifically blockade any kind of legislation or any kind of beneficial programs for other groups. For whatever reason, anytime it's us, it's always everybody against us. So, I honestly, I feel like, if that was me, I might not have necessarily went at him like that. I would have asked him, well, you're here. Where were you when we were trying to get our legislation? Maybe start a chant like that. See how he answers that. Really, you know what I mean?
really press him like, oh, okay, since you're here, we got the cameras on you. What's up?
What's up? Yeah. What's up with that signature on HR 40?
Exactly. So I think we got enough people in here now. Some more people will come in later. It's been 6 minutes already. So I want to get into today's video, right? I had another video scheduled, my usual thing that I normally do and what I normally talk about that you all know me for. I didn't really have much to say about the Chauvin trial, but the reason I'm talking about this right now, that is because after he was found guilty, right? I'm just cruising around on YouTube and there's this brother that I follow by the name of Charles Faulkner, right? He also goes by the name of Officer Charles Faulkner. Right? He's a police officer in Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's been on the police force in Baltimore for about 20 years now. I think about 20 years, right? He's been there for a minute. And let me show you the video that I was listening to. I'm going to put it as a screen share. And screen share. And what he discussed in this video, and I highly suggest that you all go watch this, right? Go watch the first hour of Charles Faulkner's video. And it's right here. This is his YouTube channel, Charles Faulkner Jr. And this is the video right here. It's called The George Floyd Case Verdict. Where are you, Mr. Fantastic? And the reason he's saying, where are you, Mr. Fantastic? He was calling out a guy that he had beef with, basically, who thought that, Chauvin was going to get acquitted, right? So I say listen to the first hour of that, because that's where he goes in to discuss why he feels it's so important for brothers to take over the police force, right, throughout the country. And I agreed with the good majority of what he was saying. He was making a very strong case that made logical sense, And like I said, I strongly suggest you go listen and go watch that video. Please, the first hour of it. After the first hour, things get crazy because the guy that he called out called up, and then they just started shouting at each other, and then it just spiraled into some other stuff. Oh man. But that first hour, oh my God. I'm going to try and have that brother on. I'm going to try and get him on to have him speak for himself on that. But I want to elaborate on what he was saying. And essentially, it made a lot of sense, right? Why wouldn't you, at this moment in time, with the kind of momentum that we have and the way things are shifting, right? If you're talking about taking advantage of a moment, why wouldn't we take this opportunity to actually take complete control over the police force in our communities, in our neighborhoods, and in our cities? Why wouldn't we grab and take hold of those positions of authority and power so that we can actually govern our own folks in our neighborhoods and in our blocks and in our counties? Why wouldn't you do that? Because if you don't do it, somebody else will that don't look like you. And they don't care nothing about you. So why wouldn't you assume those roles and enter that position, not simply with the goal of, or simply because of the reason that you need a job and with good benefits? That's a given, right? That's a given. But you're moving with the intent on creating that change that we say that we want. Because while we're sitting here waiting on whatever type of legislation, the George Floyd bill and all this other stuff that they deliberately drag out, they drag it on purpose. I almost went on a tangent. I'm gonna save it, but they drag it out on purpose. Why don't we enter the force in droves now? Right. And I want to say this one other thing that I'm going to pass it on to, the good brother Rob, is that for as much as, we all love to talk about lineage, right? We've all seen the hashtag lineage matters in association with ADOS movement, as well as those that identify with the term FBA, Foundational Black American, right? Lineage. We built this country, right? Not me, obviously. We all know that I'm a descendant of my parents are from Haiti, right? But we get the point. We built this country, right? Before it was even a country. 1619 to 1776. It wasn't even the US yet. You laid down the foundations for there to be a country. Then you fought for it to become a country and become the United States of America, and you built it up there. And then you fought to keep the country together during the Civil War, and you continued to build it up afterwards, So why wouldn't you take essentially what's rightfully yours based off of the fact that you built it, right? Grab hold. It's yours. It's yours. These police departments, it's yours. These fire departments, it's yours. We built this. Take it back. Take it. It belongs to you. All right, Rob, you go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah, you remember Nas? Whose world is it? The world is yours. The world is yours. It's mine. It's mine. That's serious, man. And people need to go with that mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to that, like if you pay attention in business, I don't know how many people in the chat are involved in business or whoever done business, but is there anybody in here that's heard of a SWOT analysis, SWOT? If you heard of a SWOT analysis, type it into the comments. Me and Tony talked about it yesterday. Let's test his memory and see if he knows what it is.
No, I remember what it is. I'm curious if anybody else knows what a SWOT analysis is.
Yeah,
I remember when we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, let's see if you guys know what a SWOT analysis is.
Yeah, just a quick yes or no. Who's heard of
quick
that?
Yes or no.
And if it's lagging too long, we'll just jump in,
right.
It's there for like 10 minutes lagging. Like,
right.
all the yeses and no's come in like an hour later. Oh, okay. Look, it already came in.
Yeah, we got a couple
reality thought.
That's
have. Okay. All right. So I see a lot of people say yes, some say no. All right, go ahead, brother. Break it down.
All right, so basically what a SWOT analysis is, for the most part, is people who are in strategy, like a CEO or a marketing department, for the most part, do an environmental analysis, and it's called strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then on the outside, there's external and internal. You know what I mean? So what you could do is like you could look at some of the things that we have going on that are problems in our community, and what you want to do is you want to swap the S and you want to swap the T. You want to turn your threats into strengths. So one of the threats that we have that people always have issues with, for the most part, or one of the biggest things that people are complain about, is law enforcement. Now, we could, make changes in law enforcement by becoming police officers. There's a woman named Carol Horn. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure you guys probably are familiar with her because she has some big things happen recently. You probably heard about it in the last couple of days. If you watch The Breakfast Club, the Breakfast Club had a little bit of a segment about it. If you watch my channel, I did a video about it. It premiered last night. But this woman, Carol Horn, was a police officer. You know what I'm saying? She was a police officer in Buffalo, New York. And she went through some things. You know what I'm saying? What happened was she was at a situation where her partner was strangling a handcuffed suspect. All right. And she intervened and saved this dude's life. You always see the famous picture of that Asian police officer who kind of just looked the other way when Derrick Chauvin was on George Floyd. But this Carol Horn, she didn't do like that Asian officer. She actually intervened and stopped this officer from killing the suspect. And what ended up happening was the Buffalo Police Department fired her. All right. They fired her and they took her pension. You see what I'm saying? They took her job, and then they took her backup economic money. She had $800,000 worth of a pension, and they fired her and made it so she couldn't receive her pension. Just recently, she won the case to get that overturned. So now she's able to have access to her pension again. But I mean, you see a lot of these things happen. There was an issue that happened in Chicago, and there was indeed a black police officer. And unfortunately, he threw this guy down. You know what I mean? After, watching his partner, be violent to this individual. And, I think that Tony brings up a good point as far as, getting into law enforcement. And we need to see that as a strength and see it as a threat and turn it into a strength. But we also got to make sure that the right kind of people become police officers also, because, KRS-One made that song called Black Cop, and them ain't the kind of black cops that you want. You want somebody like that woman named Carol Horn, who actually, intervened and did the right thing. You don't see that happen too many times, but then you also got to pay attention that she had to fight the blue line instead of the blue line being on her side. You know what I mean? They got her out of there. She got a disciplinary action. She ended up winning in the end, but, if she didn't have as much strength and tenacity as she has, she might have lost her pension. I think she got like 5 kids. You know what I mean? She needs to take care of her family with that money. So, I mean, but the thing is that it would be a lot easier for us to have a blue line if we actually had, people in the police office that actually were invested in and actually cared about the community that they come from. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, to become a police officer, it's not real easy. You got to go through the academy, and then people have to make a lot of behavioral changes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to make sure that, we're on our square, so that we don't get into any trouble, and background checks don't stop us and different things like that, because there is a lot of stuff that's required. You're going to need to be able to use a firearm and a bunch of different things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, also too, I don't know if I made mention of this concerning moving with intent, right? And because we got into this when we were talking yesterday, right? I've seen some people in the comment section, they're like, no, it's corrupt, and, blah, 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 blah. The reasons why joining the police force won't work, and it's too corrupt, and so on and so forth. And, I have to give serious pushback to that, because yes, though it is internally corrupt on many levels, some worse than others, depending on what city you're in, right? When you're moving into these positions in mass, right, with intent, you can actually curve these things. And I'll give you some examples. The reason that a lot of the corruption, right, is able to exist and it's able to maintain itself is because you have white nationalists that move with intent and moving with purpose to enter into law enforcement for the sheer purpose of being just vile, ruthless, racist, and doing all the things that they couldn't do to black folks without the badge, right? And to make sure that they maintain a certain level of injustice within the system. We all understand this to be true. The FBI documents, and there's multiple articles that have been written on it. It's a fact. They move into these departments with the purpose of maintaining the system of racism and white supremacy within that police structure. And you even see that out here in LA. Like me and Rob were talking about yesterday, and many of you, are familiar with what's happened out here in LA. I think particularly the police station or the sheriff station in Compton. But you have gangs. What was the name of one of them, Rob? I forgot.
The first gang is called the Banditos. You know what I'm saying? And the second gang is called the Reapers. And that's another thing that you mentioned. They're and we talked about this yesterday too. How sometimes I'm like, yeah, that terminology as far as like the racism and white supremacy is a little bit outdated, because now, especially with the influx of the immigrants who are coming in, we have new systems in place that are threats that need to be examined, like the Banditos, which is a very corrupt Latino gang that's in the police department, especially in LA. Now, there's also issues with Asian gangs in the police. I don't know if you guys knew, a couple years ago, in California, there were 2 Asian police officers who got caught with some text messages where they were saying some pretty disgusting anti-Black comments. You know what I mean? And you have to understand that one of the pillars, when coming into this country, one of the things, even as a Black person, which is really sad, you know what I'm saying? One of the pillars that you can get easy success from doing is just trashing Black people. You know what I mean? Like I could make a YouTube channel today and just start going in on Black people, and probably by the end of the week I'd have 50,000 subscribers. But if you do any, you know what I'm saying, if you do anything to try to do anything beneficial, or you try to show people some information, or put a bunch of different perspectives on things, so people have a viable choice of what they can listen to or where they get their information from, you're not going to get that kind of support. Sad.
Exactly. And then like now, and I see some people in the comment section, they're talking about, there's this one, an individual saying the Asian police gang in San Francisco. I didn't even know there was an Asian police gang in San Francisco.
Yeah,
but then
that's what I was talking about with that text ring. He knows exactly what I'm talking about, that Asian police gang in San Francisco. I think one of them was married to a Black woman. And then the other one, that happened, man. And then the other one, I think, they was accused of raping somebody or something like that. And the text messages came out. They had to do an internal affairs investigation, and it was a whole big mess. But the mainstream media, they tried to cover it up. They tried to dumb it down and make it like it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just the same thing. I think the woman's name is Molly Lillard, who just ended up getting killed by her husband. Her father was a wide receiver on the New York Jets. They don't say too much about that. You know what I mean? And they just downplayed it in the articles. They they basically talked about her father's accomplishments as a New York Jet, and they talked about her accomplishments as a volleyball player. Then they didn't say too much. I think only UK Daily Mail showed a picture of the killer, which was her husband, and you can imagine what he looked like. But I mean, it's just like there's things that we have issues with that we need to either become competitive in or take control of in order to see any kind of change. One of them is definitely law enforcement. The other one is the criminal justice system. If you don't want to be a cop, skip past the cop part, and get involved in the criminal justice system. Work on becoming a lawyer, or a DA or a prosecutor. Don't become like that woman in New York. But try to become somebody that can actually make a difference. And then also the media. Social media makes a huge difference. Make some content, give some good perspectives on things, because access to information is becoming a new currency. And that's another area where, in my opinion, we're severely behind, that we need to make a lot of improvements in, because, it seems like, when it comes to us, we tend to be a couple weeks behind on important issues, and we live in an information age. We can't afford that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, see, and then this all goes back to what I was saying with moving with intent. The white nationalists, they move with intent when they join law enforcement. The Hispanics that form gangs within the LA Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, that didn't happen out of osmosis. It wasn't just a bunch of Hispanics that just happened to be in the police force and they said, hey, let's just kind of do this. No, this was done with intent prior to getting in. We know why we're doing this. We know why we're joining the force. And when you're talking about the Asian police gang in San Francisco as well, it's not just random Asians on the police force and they're just like, hey, this will be a good idea. No. They knew what they were about before they pursued joining the police force. So we should be doing the exact same thing, not to form gangs to perpetuate injustice, but to form our own little gangs and coalition within the police force to protect ourselves, to protect our people, and to protect the community. It only makes logical sense. You know what I mean? It makes logical sense to move with that level of intent, to create the kind of change that you want to see. Because if not, like I said, I didn't even know about an Asian police gang. So you're telling me that everybody can move with intent, all of the groups can move with intent, join the police force, form these little gangs and start running stuff in your community, but you can't? Come on, man. That doesn't even make logical sense. That doesn't even make logical sense, So moving forward, like I said, and also too, I understand it's not for everybody, right? Because some folks just might be scared. And I understand that. I don't say that from a standpoint of making fun of like, oh, you scared? No. That's why I'm not a police officer. What you talking about? You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm not a cop, you know? But everybody ain't scared. Everybody ain't scared like that. And for those of you who are just kind of, you just kind of out here lounging around, you young, you got your health intact, you don't have a job, you struggling day to day, this, that, and the third. And if you ain't scared, why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you make that leap forward, right? And I know there's some people that could sit here and say, oh, we've done these things. Because I saw somebody in the comment section that was saying, oh, in Baltimore, it's like almost an all black police force, right? It's almost all black, right? And I guess and that's where the brother Charles Faulkner is as well. He's a police officer in Baltimore. So we'll take that example. It's all black police force, I guess, essentially in Baltimore. And I'm assuming that's being stated because they're corrupt to some degree, right? So I guess that's the premise, is that that's the reason they're bringing that up. But that's not an example of, oh, we've tried that already, because there is no point in U.S. history that you can show me documented history where, as a people, we en masse said, this is what we're going to do. We're doing this. We're going here to change X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to give you an example, because you might be saying, oh, no, that's not true. No, it is true. Because when it comes to a certain group of people, I'm not going to say their names, but I'll say this much. Shout out to Nick Cannon, right? When it comes to a certain group of people, it is very well documented when a certain portion of them made up their minds to say, we're taking over media. It is documented very well. There are a lot of books written on it. When they made up their minds before, said, we're going to take over the media. We're going to take over or create Hollywood. Okay. The same thing goes with.
Speaking of law enforcement, that individual group you're talking about, they have a lot of lawyers and judges.
Okay. And then also, too, I'll give you another example. It is very well documented, right? I can say Italians. That's safe, right? It's very well documented when Italians shifted over and took over and or created Las Vegas. A certain sector of them made up their minds that this is what we're doing. And that is well documented. Historical fact. There is no well documented historical point in time when, in this particular case concerning the police force, black folks said, you know what, this is what we on. There was a segment of black Americans after the after the George Floyd murder, and Chauvin was found guilty, that from 2021 and 2031 there was an influx of black males who joined the police force at a number of 200 times normal. You feel what I'm saying? Those kind of things can be documented. You can't find that now because that's never happened. We've trickled in little by little into certain positions. So you have a situation like we're in Baltimore, where that's this all black police force. And if you want to use that as an example to dismiss what we're saying and disagree, that's fine. I'm not tripping over it. We can have our differences of opinion. But for me, that doesn't validate that that's not a good idea and that this doesn't work, because we've done it before. Because we haven't. There's no moment in time that has been well documented in that way, where you see en masse a group of black men change their minds and perception on things like joining the police force, even firefighters, military. I don't care what you're talking about, but made up their minds and said, we're taking this over. We're flipping this. You feel what I'm saying? So go ahead, Rob, if you want to elaborate on that.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things that I think is important that we need to do as far as that is a self-assessment. Racism is definitely a problem, but in my opinion, I think it's become a crutch. You know, one of the things, if you listen to a lot of independent Black media, or if you listen to a lot of content creators that talk about a lot of empowerment things, one of the major points that they tried to make was what would be the difference between Joe Biden and what would be the difference between Trump. And, you know, most people with common sense said nothing, because, I mean, honestly, what's actually going to be different? You know what I mean? It's not like any of those candidates have anything, you know, as far as our agendas in mind. Now, the reason why I say that is because the Democrats tend to use a lot of fear porn. Anything is better than Trump. Well, I mean, not really, because slavery is not better than Trump. You know what I mean? Like, you know, coronavirus is not better than Trump. You know, like, you know, a nuclear war with China and Russia is not better than Trump. There's a lot of stuff that's not better than Trump. You know what I mean? A president doesn't dictate your outcomes. At the end of the day, your drive and tenacity dictate your outcomes. But if you put your own glass ceiling on your fate, then that means that your glass ceiling is about 2 or 3 feet lower than the actual glass ceiling that society tries to create to keep you encased. So if the answer for somebody not making movements or going into a direction of a certain thing is because of racism and white supremacy, well, you know, at the end of the day, you're never going to make any direction. You're always just going to sit still. And that's one of the things that we see now. One of the biggest issues that we have as far as in dealing with just Black people is there's so many Black people that just literally won't cooperate with other Black people just because of a slight difference in ideology. Or, you know, then you have that segment of Black people who just, if Black people go one way, then, you know, Black people have to go the other way. And then there's the other segment that, you know, anything that Black people do, it has to be automatically demonized to try to look good in the eyes of others. You know what I mean? They try to gain acceptance. And the thing is that, you know, at some point, there's got to be a minimum level of understanding that, okay, if we see an issue, what we need to do is, as Black people, we need to figure out what it is that we need to do and just do it. It shouldn't matter what the situation is. We can do things without laws. You know what I mean? Like if there's something like as far as business or planning, you know, creating a company or a trust or whatever, we need to just get the information, bite down and do it. We need to stop looking to be led. You know what I mean? Like stop comparing ourselves to other groups. Just stop all of that, worry about ourselves and just deal with what we got to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, again, you know, I think TD has alluded to this a couple of times. Reparations is a nice thought, but are we going to actually just hold our breath until anything ever happens with that? I mean, you have like 87% of the population who's upset about the fact that a bill got pushed through, a bill for a study that's not guaranteed to pay anything, and the population is for the most part outraged. You know what I mean? That you know, it's even being considered to look at for a study. So how are we? I mean, you know, the expectation of something like that being realistic, we have to have a contingency plan. And to not have a contingency plan, if you don't think that having a contingency plan is important, drop your health insurance, drop your life insurance, drop your car insurance, and just go ahead and go on through life like that. Because that's what you're doing by not having a contingency plan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then, you know, to piggyback off of what you were saying concerning glass ceilings, and we talked about this yesterday also, or I brought this up when you and me were talking. It was about maybe 2 months ago when the Black Authority, right? Was it? Yeah, it was a Black Authority. He had a tech episode. He had an episode that wasn't about politics or anything of that nature. He was 100% just solely talking about how important it is for brothers and sisters, just for the Black community in general, to get involved in cybersecurity, to get involved in IT. And he had a lot of brothers from across the world, you know, brothers in Europe as well as that are here in the States, that he had on the show, just talking and sharing their expertise with the people in terms of what they have to do or what we have to do to actually get in this field and thrive. Now, one of the brothers, and I believe he was a brother that was actually overseas in Europe, right? Because now we're getting back to the point of glass ceilings, right? He was stating concerning, just say, racism and all that kind of stuff and color of your skin being a barrier. He was saying, you know, yeah, there's racism. Yes, there is a glass ceiling, right? Solely based off of the color of your skin, you know? It's hard to get into that good old boys club. You know what I mean? There is a glass ceiling. But what he was saying is that what a lot of us don't understand, that we fail to realize, is that that glass ceiling is a lot higher than what you think it is. It's not as low as you think. It's actually a lot higher. He's not denying the fact that it's there. No, it's there. You know, not denying racism, white supremacy, and all that stuff. No, the glass ceiling is there. It exists, but it's not as low as you think it is. It's actually a lot higher. And once you understand that, it's a lot higher, you know, it sheds us as a people holding ourselves back, because so many people like to say, right, we are our own worst enemies. We're our own worst enemies. And it's something that irritates me. I hate it because I feel like people use it at least with me, people use it at the wrong time. And what you talking about? This is clear-cut racism. Ain't no worst enemies. Like, shut up. You know, this ain't nothing but some clear-cut racism, anti-black racism. And you over here talking about, so we are our own worst enemies, you know. But there are certain instances where that's the case. I think, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I can speak honestly for myself. Yes, there have been situations, there have been moments, right, where I just didn't try something because, man, you know, they're not even gonna mess with me like that. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, you know, I'm black and they're not, they're whatever. They could be whatever they were, right? They didn't even necessarily have to be white. And you're just like, man, forget it. I'll figure something else out. You know what I mean? I just stopped. I blocked myself. Yeah, I just blocked myself. You feel me? I didn't even give it that good go. You feel what I'm saying? So to reel it back into the point of this video and in this discussion, when we're talking about whether or not, you know, black men in droves should take this moment, this opportunity to say, you know what? We taking the police force. This ours now. You know, we gonna change the narrative and switch everything up over here. You feel me? Will there be resistance? Are there going to be glass ceilings and all that stuff? Absolutely. But I do believe the glass ceilings are a lot higher than you think. And I do personally believe, and I don't think it's just, what's the term? Like, I think wishful optimism or blissful optimism. I believe that those glass ceilings that do exist within the criminal justice system, and particularly within the police department, those can be broken. Those can be shattered if we're actually moving with intent, forming our own coalitions. I don't want to say gangs, but forming our own coalitions within the department for the purposes of protecting ourselves, our brothers on the force, as well as our people.
Right. I think that people need to like come to grips with like what kind of realistic goals that they want, or like what kind of realistic change do they want? What do you actually want? And then you have to think about the processes. You know, sometimes, you know, you see a lot of people say, oh, you know, becoming a black cop, you know, that's a dumb idea. I don't know, like, is it? You know what I mean? Like, if you sit down and think about it, is the notion of becoming a black police officer and actually being yourself, you know what I'm saying? Being that black police officer like Carol Horn, who would actually intervene in a situation where, you know, a suspect isn't being treated properly. Is that really a black idea or a bad idea? Because the thing that you have to understand is, you know, there's trickle down and trickle up effects from everything. If you have more black police officers in black areas, you might have, you know, criminals who have somewhat more of a respect for law enforcement, right? So it might be able to deal with those cases easier. So there could possibly be less, you know, police on suspect violence, first and foremost. Second of all, you provide a role model for young kids. They say, oh, you know, this is a cool cop right here. You know, it's something I want to do, or be a fireman or something like that. You know, I want to do something like that where I'm working a civic kind of job, you know? So you provide an example. Third of all, if you're providing that example, you're making those youthful kids behave in a way starting younger where they're not going to cause themselves all of the life issues that could deter them from being a police officer in the future. If the children are behaving in that way, then in generations after generations, that's going to decrease the crime rate. And if people aren't committing crimes, and if people aren't having things on their background check, that lifts that glass ceiling that we were talking about up higher. Because see, the glass ceiling isn't going to directly say you're black, you can't come. You know, now if Joe Biden had his way, because we all know he's a segregationist, you know what I mean? That would be how the ceiling would work. You know what I'm saying? But because Joe Biden doesn't have his way, they have to use other things. So what they'll do is like the Drug Abuse Act, I think it was like of 1985. They'll say, okay, well, 5 grams of crack is the same as 500 grams of cocaine. All right, so now that's a problem because that's where the crack areas are. They're not doing that with heroin; they're doing it with crack. So guess what? Somebody might have a drug abuse problem. Some people get patted on the back and some methadone at a clinic for their drug abuse problem, but now you got jail time with the drug of your choice. You know what I'm saying? The other drug of your choice is now being sold in wide scale distribution. You know what I mean? But guess what? There's a bunch of people that are in jail who had the thought and the foresight to see that was actually a good market. See, in American society, that would be called entrepreneurship. Oh, this person took an opportunity. There was a market that was available and they took over the market. Okay, there's a lot of people that saw that marijuana was a good product. It was non-harmful. And they came out and was selling a lot of weed. Guess what? They're in jail. They're not benefiting from it. But they were running a case study the entire time. Everybody was risking their life to get put behind bars or possibly die in a police, encounter while everybody was trapping. So guess what? All of those trap stars ain't getting anything from marijuana. And guess who is? These people that own land and these business owners. So if we change those and understand that small changes can create large changes over time, then you have to really ask yourself, well, if everybody moved in one direction, which, everybody says that they read Dr. Claude Anderson, and that's what Dr. Claude Anderson said, use the opportunity of being a minority to, in small places, make yourself a majority by taking over a neighborhood or taking over a career field. Then, how crazy of an idea is that? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I want to highlight this comment real quick before we shut it down, because it's almost about that time. Let me put this up. Said Big Cannon. Is this Nick Cannon's burner account? Big Cannon, big.
You got all the hip hop stars in here. I saw Dave East in here earlier, bro. I was like, okay, shout out, you know what I'm saying? That's my man right there.
Got Dave East in here, got Nick Cannon, but going under Big Cannon. But Big Cannon says majority of the white police officers that patrol my city never had to encounter with a black person until they were at the police academy. So essentially what he's saying is a little misspell that he had, but essentially they've never even had an encounter with somebody black, until they got into the police academy. And then now they're patrolling your city, your towns, your neighborhoods. And then once again, we're shocked when we get the results that we get with them. I've seen on quite a few occasions, right, concerning black police officers, where it'll be videos, online, let's say Instagram or something like that, right? And it'll be a black police officer, who's squabbling up, with another, we'll just say black man or whatever, for whatever the reason being, right? I don't, you normally you come right into the situation and you just see what it is, right? It's a young brother who's squabbling up with a black police officer, and the black police officer is actually entertaining the squabble up, like they going, back and forth, and there's other cops there that are black, and they're just kind of like, just the people that are around, kind of like, hold up, and I've seen some people say, oh, he wouldn't be doing that if it was a white police officer. But that's the point. If it was a white police officer, we already know how that's ending for you. Right. The fact that it was a black police officer, it's not good that he felt comfortable enough to squabble up with you. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. But what was the good thing is that because it was a black officer and I know my people and I actually care, I'm not about to just pull my thing out and take him out of here, man. Right. Let me, what, you want these hands? All right, come get these hands. And then after you get these hands, I'm going to arrest you. You feel what I'm saying?
Right. That would require a sense of, a sense of identity and a sense of unity and a sense of camaraderie, which is something that unfortunately we have not displayed very well, which is one of the reasons why we're in the situation we are now. Because if that was the case, then, before the transatlantic slave trade, things like what happened wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? There has to be some sense of belonging and some sense of caring. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you were talking about the black police officer, and that's interesting. And it's sad to see, because the black police officers, you know, other than this woman named Carol Horn, for the most part, are very disappointing. You know what I mean? When it comes to their behavior. I don't know, the people that are in the room, are you guys familiar with the case of Daniel Prude? Have you ever heard of Daniel Prude, Tony?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah. He was the guy that was naked in Rochester, New York. The police put a spit mask on him and they pressed his face into the concrete while it was snowing outside. You know, how nice, right? Until he died right there on the scene. There's a black cop there. Go watch some of the replays. He just sat there, and then he turns around and looks in the camera like all guilty, like a little hurt dog. Yeah. I mean, what were you doing? You know, you're sitting there watching somebody get murdered. You know what I mean? And then, you know, I get it that some people, that being a police officer isn't the thing for some people. But I tell you what, being an active member of the community should be what is a thing for everybody. So one of the things that people need to start doing going forward is asking, you know, well, what are our rights as far as intervening as a citizen? If we see police violence, what can we do and how are we protected? You know what I mean? I mean, everybody's not Superman. You know, I wouldn't advise anybody to get in the middle of violent confrontation between a suspect and a police officer. But I mean, you know, I think there are apps out there where if you see something like that, you can, you know, take a video and it'll upload the video to some type of database that can get sent out to, you know, make sure that those kind of things are investigated or something like that. Because one of the things that is most important is, you know, I get it that everybody doesn't want to be a police officer. And, you know, the purpose of this video, this live stream is not, you know, me or Tony trying to be career counselors and tell everybody what to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a suggestion because there's a vacancy and an opening. And when you do stuff like that, you know, one of the things that we do is we complain about legislation, right? Like one of the biggest things is that, you know, Joe Biden made all this legislation for Asians on the first day, but he didn't do anything for us. What's the problem with that? What is the fundamental problem with that? The fundamental problem is didn't do anything for us. The first expectation we got to have is stop expecting anyone who you already know hates you to do anything for you. They're not going to do anything for you other than something that's going to cause your detriment. So if we're not getting any legislation, okay, we already know there's not a whole bunch of Asian people getting killed by the police. So clearly that's not a problem. Everybody sees this. When Joe Biden met with Russia and when he met with China, the China and Russia were getting in Joe Biden's grill about human rights violations to black people. All right. So then China and Russia aren't even talking about the AAPI, you know, hate crime nonsense that the media has come up with, which is actually a psyop because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But what they're saying is that there's these visible issues that are going on here in the United States. So how do we fix it? We just bypass Joe Biden and just take over the police force. Just say, you know what, we're just going to start becoming police officers. When we have our children, if that's something that they show an interest in, we're going to support them go in that direction. You know what I mean? Because the thing is if we're not getting a piece of paper, an executive order signed, okay, like whatever, we'll just take it. Not through a violent way, but we'll just take it by using our tenacity, our innovation, our intelligence, and our resources. And then what? Now we have a government that has a track record of not only not doing anything, but not supporting us when we make efforts to do things. Because if we show an effort to want to get into a career field, this is clearly a career field where we have disparities. Now we can come back at the government and say, guess what? We want grants for black police officers, black specific police officers, because George Floyd, you want to pass this George Floyd Act, he was black. And now we have a lot of interest in black men wanting to be police. So where is the money to help black men become police? Because, you know, these are disparities in the community, and disparities in any economic system are what's supposed to be able to get you, you know, a supplement, you know what I mean? Or a stipend or something like that. So now we have a case, you know, there's a 10% surge in black police involvement, and there's a trend where black people are going into the police force. Let's get some money for that education. How do you say no to that? You know what I mean? We're not really creating good cases to present as far as for reparations, or not reparations, but for specific legislation at times either. You know what I'm saying? My bad, Tony. I see you wanted to hop in.
No. I was just listening to what you're saying. I was just agreeing with everything you're saying. You know, you create, to highlight what you're saying. You're creating a situation now where you're seeing this 10% increase or 20% increase in black men joining the police force, where you've now created a new lane or a new lane and a new argument and a new route to getting funds, right? To getting grant money, to be able to demand it, and it virtually be impossible to be against, right? Because how you gonna be against black folks trying to be police officers?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
This is what black people doing being police officers does for the community. Let's take the action element out of it. Let's say you got two cops and they both look like Carl Winslow. You know, then they go into a black-owned restaurant for some donuts and coffee. Oh man, they got some great donuts and coffee. You know what I'm saying? So now, you know, these two officers, they spread the, you know, if they beat cops walking up and down the street, you know, interacting with people, you know, friendly, got a rapport or whatever. Now there's their word of mouth spreading the message about this black-owned business. Yo, you know, Moe's Donuts, they got some good donuts and coffee down there. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, as long as you get the right people in these positions, the effects that they'll have, it's not only just on law enforcement. You know what I mean? Like it'll help to spread everything. You know what I'm saying? You're giving, you know, youth some kind of direction. You know what I mean? You're encouraging businesses that are existing. And then just think about that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, now you have people that are actually invested. Well, I want to see black businesses do good. These are people that are actually going to properly police black businesses if black businesses are in these black areas and black communities. So now you're going to get some actual, you know, protection about your company or your business that actually cares. It's not going to be, I'm just going to come here, you know, I'm going to wreck everything because, you know, there could be a robbery going on in here. I'm going to cause a bunch of extra issues, shoot through a bunch of windows. And now you got to make an insurance claim and it might be higher than your premium. Now I got to close the business down because I can't afford to fix it. You know, somebody who's actually invested in the community is going to say, listen, I'm going to try to do this with as minimal damage as I can so they can utilize as much of this insurance money as they can. I mean, it's just all of those thought processes would be inherent. You know what I mean? If we had elements of the community taking care of itself. You know what I'm saying? And the problem is that for one, it's almost like we're not trained in that way to think to where you would have a cascading positive effect. So we need to start doing that. You know what I'm saying? And then another issue that we have is, again, there's that small element, you know, you got like the Larry Elders, you know what I mean? You got the Ben Carsons, you know, those people that anytime anybody does anything, the same idiots that sit there and say, well, you know, you want to support black business, that's racist. You need to support everybody's business. No, it's not racist. You know what I mean? It's supporting black business. That's it. Nobody's saying boycott Walmart. Nobody's saying boycott McDonald's, although you might live longer if you boycott McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? What it's saying is what it's saying is, you know, spend the money and keep it in the community for a little bit. Spread the wealth. There's no difference between, you know, the saying spread the wealth and invest in black business. But the population, you know, and the media, they have you conditioned to think a certain way. And it's like, you're not doing wrong. Stop validating your behavior by what mainstream media and what other people you hear say. Because do you see, you know, AAPI people validating their behavior? No, not at all. You know what I mean? Do you see Latino people validating their behavior or looking for approval from people? No. You know, people have been talking about, you know, Latino people, you know, like 17 Latinos being in a Nissan Sentra for how long? I mean, it literally, yeah, you know, all the Latinos pop out and then they come out with a lawnmower. People literally say stuff like that. Do you think they care? No, they just continue to do what they're doing. They start a business with a Nissan Sentra and a lawnmower. And then in 20 years, you know, they'll have a decent, you know, they'll have a Medios lawn care company. You know what I mean? And that's what we need to start doing. Stop looking for validation from dumb sources that aren't going to get you anything and start looking at validation from a financial and goal-based bottom line. You know what I'm saying?
And with that said, that's all, folks. It was somebody, man, in the one of the videos that I uploaded maybe like 2 weeks ago, you know. And when I said, and with that being said, he was like, man, your videos be so like short, not complaining, but like, you know, he appreciates how it's straight to the point, but like he wishes there would be more. You know, and he was like, you know, as soon as you hear, and with that being said, like, It's over. Once Tony say, with that being said, it's a wrap.
That's a wrap. With that being said, remember back in the day, Tony used to say, I got no more talking or something like that.
Yeah, I used to end the videos with the Birdman. I ain't got no more talking. I'm out of here.
No more talking.
All three of y'all. All three of y'all. Small shout out to Smalls with the super chat. All three of y'all. Small says peace and black. Let's see. Let's put Smalls on the screen. Small says peace and black power to TD. The growth of this platform and constant improvement in professional journalism is impressive. I'll also hit that Patreon. I appreciate you, Smalls. All three of y'all. Okay.
All three of y'all, you know.
Oh man. Yeah,
you should tell them about your mailing list. You know what I'm saying? I just recently signed up to that TD Hip Hop mailing list. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. If you're not on a mailing list, please, I know some of y'all already. He said, with that being said, I seen the numbers dropping. You know? Get the mailing list. The link is in the description. And no, I thought I had it copy pasted ready to go on my end, but I don't. But the link is in the description, man. Join the TD Hip Hop Media mailing list. That's just another mechanism to secure myself and make sure that I can take my audience with me wherever I go. Like I always say, when I talk about going independent of YouTube, that's not something that I say for ish and giggles. I don't say that just because. I'm serious when I say that, but you cannot go independent if I'm unable to take my audience with me, right? I can't do it. So the most important thing that you can do to support this channel, really above everything, if I'm being completely honest, right, is join that mailing list. Join the mailing list. The link is in the description. It's in the description. Yeah. Join the emailing list. I'm not going to hit you up with spam. No, none of that stuff. And if you haven't joined if you haven't joined the text group, make sure you join the text messaging list as well by texting TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That's TD Hip Hop to number 33222. Right? And I'm surprised more of us in this space don't make these efforts. We rely. No. That's going to be a whole. We're going to go off. That's going to be another video. I got to get out of here. I only got 3 more minutes. I got to pick my son up from school. You know, I'm not even going to go there. But you all kind of knew where I was going. I'm surprised that more of us don't really take that much of a serious approach of making sure we're locking our folks in, you know, outside of YouTube. So please, join the mailing list. Please text TD Hip Hop to number 33222 to join the text messaging list. You know what I mean? And, as per usual, show love on Patreon. It's only $3 a month. And like I always say, that helps put me in position to be able to grow independent of YouTube. The link is pinned in the comment section. The link is in the description. The link is easy to find, So join Patreon for only $3 a month. You can show love on CashApp. TD Hip Hop is a CashApp sign. And that's it. That's all I got. Shout out to thank you, JM. But yeah, with that being said,
look at that, you got the third eye open with the $50.
Yeah,
it's all coming in at the end. That's all you got to do is say, well, with that being said, and then the super chat.
Third eye open. See, y'all trying to trick me. Third eye open. JM and who was it? Big Smalls or whatever his name is. They heard what that they figured it out. They said, "Yo," he said. With that being said,
we got to
throw something on the super chat. Now he got to stay on. Now he got to stay on.
But you know what though? That's an important point though. And see, so that actually, I mean, basically sums it up. Money talks. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that with anything. And when it comes to that kind of thing, right? Bringing it back to the law enforcement thing that Tony was talking about, you would be able to have a law enforcement political group, special interest group that would actually, just regular, common day black people like me or Tony, you know what I mean? That could actually become a thing if more black people were involved in law enforcement. There'd be food drives, you know what I mean? There'd be political events, people getting informed. We don't have like a lot of political interaction, like the fire department, the FOE, you know what I mean? They always have all of these functions and family functions, and it's just camaraderie, you know what I mean? Everybody bring a plate. I mean, we don't really do none of that in like a functional way. You know what I'm saying? If we did it where we all had like a career behind, and again, it don't have to be law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? That there's a large concentration of us in. Do something that's festive to bring people together to talk about important issues. You know what I mean? And encourage people to move into that direction. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's it. And then that way we'll be able to have some finance. A lot of these people, they have special interest groups. Latinos, they have a special interest group. You know what I'm saying? The group that Tony was talking about earlier, they have hella special interest groups. They're always the biggest candidate donor to whoever wins in office. We need to be able to be competitive with that. We don't put out a lot of money, and we have a lot of money. Like we actually have more spending power. The racial wealth gap may be, you know, very wide, but as far as liquid money that we have available to spend, we have a lot of money to spend. You know what I mean? Like I've been a part of Tony's Patreon for a while now. You know what I mean? When I'm actually watching the videos, if I catch a live stream, I put money on the super chat. The reason why I do that, you know what I mean, is because I care about independent Black journalism. I care about it. It's something that I think is crucial. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that's in here that listens to Professor Black Truth, he always talks about Andrew Breitbart, his vision for Breitbart. And I don't respect Andrew Breitbart because I think he's a racist idiot. However, I do respect the strategy, and what people need to start doing is separate, you know, what is actual, you know, respect for a person versus respect for their strategy and their attitudes. And Andrew Breitbart was absolutely on point when he said the media shapes the culture. We don't have any media. What is our culture doing? You know what I mean? Like, look at Megan Thee Stallion. Look at, you know what I'm saying, Nicki Minaj. Look at Doja Cat. Look at all these idiots out here. You know what I'm saying? We have to take control of the media. When it comes to that aspect of things, I totally agree with Professor Black Truth. You know what I'm saying? I totally agree with the Black Authority. And it's one of the reasons that how I first came in contact with Tony. You know what I mean? And I support that. And if you support that, then you actually got to support it. Share the videos out. You know what I'm saying? Smash the like button, help the engagement go up. You know what I mean? And, you know, do the other stuff, the super chat, Patreon, follow on Twitter. You know what I mean? All of that stuff. It's really important to help people grow, because you can't sit there and say, oh, you know, people aren't being competitive. Okay, well, there's people trying. Tony has his own independent website. He has a mailing list. He's trying, but his efforts, as much as they may be, Tony may create some of the best, most condensed small videos that are information dense on YouTube, but it doesn't matter if the people who he is trying to support with his content don't support him back. And that's a lot of the problem that we have. You know what I'm saying? We need reciprocal support. You know what I'm saying? My bad. I got on a rant. I didn't even get out of here.
No, it's all good. It's all good. You know, it's all good. You know, it's all good. I appreciate that rant. That was a good rant. And I'm not gonna say it because I want to tell you guys something funny real quick, right? And some of y'all might be like, it's fun. It's funny to me. I don't trip out over stuff like this, like what I'm about to tell you. But literally, while you were talking, today's street cleaning day, right? Yeah. And I'm parked on the wrong side of the street, and I knew I was, but they haven't been giving tickets out here in LA for a minute, right? Ever since you know what happened, right? Yeah. The car's in front of my house on the other side of the street where I'm looking right now. As you were talking, I'm watching myself get a ticket. I'm like, oh, ain't this some God? You were talking. I'm looking at the lady writing me a ticket. I'm like, all right.
Look, rest in peace, DMX. But that's DMX trying to see it. Wait, what do you say? See it coming, try to avoid it, but here it comes. Yeah, that's how it goes when you're in the slums of crumbs. Like, you see it coming, try to avoid it, but here it comes. Like, no, go past my car.
Yeah, like past my car. You haven't been here like in about a year. Where you come from? Right. Yeah, but anyways, man. With that being said, I'm your boy Tony Laramie. Thank you, Rob, for coming through today.
For sure.
You can check out Rob on his YouTube channel, Blacklight Revelations 2. There's two Blacklight Revelations, Blacklight Revelations 1 and Blacklight Revelations 2. But you know, check out Blacklight Revelations 2, and that's it. You know, I'll let you guys later.
Peace. All right, peace, Tony.